What is up, creatives? This is Tom. So I am willing to admit that in the past I have shied away from buying expensive glass for my cameras, pretty much just because I've always relied on upgrading my camera bodies to kind of get the bump in quality that I've been after. This is a start of a new Tom. I'm going to be upgrading some of my lenses, investing in some new glass, and it all pretty much starts for me with the Sigma 18 to 35mm f1.8. This is the lens that I'm shooting this little intro with right now. I want to explain my reasoning behind buying this lens in 2019, even though it's been around for about 5 or 6 years, and of course showing you some samples of photo and video that I've taken with it. So this is an APS-C lens, which means it's specifically designed for crop sensor cameras. Now I'm adapting this onto my Sony a6500 using an MC11 adapter. The equivalent field of view is closer to a 27 to 53mm lens, there or thereabout, which is a pretty decent range for covering off things like wide landscapes up to a closer up portrait shot. The adapter works pretty well, as demonstrated from these close-up shots. Also notice the minimum focal distance is extremely good on this lens. The only downside is, whilst the autofocus is relatively accurate, it is not that quick. I shoot a lot of animals for my professional work, and there's just no way I could use the autofocusing reliably because they're just so quick. It's such a quick subject. Luckily, I want to use this lens for video where I'll be mainly using manual focus or to shoot photos of people, and I don't think the AF is going to get too in the way. Now let's talk optics. Basically, the main reason that this lens has become so popular for the years since its release is that it's just incredibly sharp throughout its zoom range. Even when you stop down the lens entirely to f1.8, which as an aside is just another really cool feature to have, is a 1.8 aperture available to you throughout the whole zoom range. The picture is just incredibly sharp when you nail focus. It genuinely is like having a fast set of prime lenses at kind of the 30mm, 45mm and 55mm range, given the crop completely in one lens, which is just pretty crazy, and still why I think this lens is so popular after these years. I've been watching a few wedding shoots that have been shot on this lens on various cameras, and it just looks so good. So if anyone wants to get married so I can film your wedding, just hit me up. Okay, so the second reason that I'm picking up this lens is kind of a bit of a ridiculous one, because I can't actually even get hold of the camera right now, but it's the fact that I'm going to be buying the Blackmagic Pocket Cinema Camera 4K. Now, anyone who knows anything about this camera is that it's just blown the camera industry wide open, and I'm just super excited to pick it up. And this lens is just an amazing combination with that camera. The Pocket 4K rocks a micro four thirds sensor, which means when you pair it with a Metabone speed booster, it brings it up to around about that APS-C size, which means it's perfect for this lens. There is a couple of negatives I've already picked out after shooting just for a couple of days with this lens so far. First of all is that the lens is just super heavy. So if you're lugging it around, it is a little bit of a challenge in smaller camera setups. This also means you need a decent payload if you want to mount this lens on a gimbal. It just flat out wouldn't mount on my Zion Crane Plus. I didn't devote a ton of time to it, but I just couldn't get it to balance. But hey, that's a project for me in the future. Next is that the autofocusing is loud. It's really loud. Now this is something I know that was a sort of a popular criticism of this lens online, and personally it doesn't really bother me for a few reasons. The first being that I doubt I'm going to use AF a ton, but also that I just don't really use onboard mics at all for production. But hey, you can have a little listen here just to see how loud it is. Alright, so I talked earlier a little bit about how this lens is a bit of a sort of investment into my future as a photographer, a videographer, and that does stand true. However, Another reason that I actually picked up this glass first is that it's not that expensive. You can pick up this lens for around about $650 in the States, about £600 here in the UK, and a lens of this quality for that value is just unbelievable. You're getting an f1.8 aperture throughout the zoom range, 18 to 35 millimeters. It's kind of not a lot more expensive than some of the other lenses that I've picked up previously in the past, which means that it's just such a good future-proof investment. It also doesn't lose a lot of value, so a really good all-round lens investment. Sadly though, I just don't think I'm going to be able to pick up a 70 to 200 millimeter for anywhere near the same affordable amount. That is pretty much it for this one, guys. Just want to keep you updated with the latest addition to my camera bag. If you have any questions about how this lens performs, just drop a comment down below in the comments section. Hopefully it won't be too long before I can show you samples of the Sigma 18-35 paired with the Blackmagic Pocket cinema camera. So subscribe if you want to be notified about that, and I'll catch you in the next one.